Today we'll be calculating the surface area of three-dimensional objects. The surface area is the total area of the surface. We'll be calculating the surface area of a cylinder, of a cone, of a rectangular prism, of a triangular prism, and a pyramid. Some of the letters we'll be using in the formula that are new to us are small p, which represents the perimeter of the base, big B, which represents area of the base, and a small cursive L, which represents slant height. Now we've used this small l before to represent the length in a rectangular prism. Today we'll be using that same letter in a cone and a pyramid to represent the slant height. When we work with three-dimensional objects, we call the bottom and the top of the objects bases, and we call the sides faces. When we're calculating the surface area of a three-dimensional figure, it's helpful to represent it with a two-dimensional view, and we do this by drawing a net. Here we can see this rectangular prism is really made up of 6 rectangles. Here's the net of a cylinder. It's made up of 2 circles and a rectangle. The net of a cone is made up of a circle and a sector of the circle. This is the side of the cone we call the lateral area. A triangular prism is made up of 3 rectangles and 2 triangles. A pyramid is made up as a base as a polygon. In this instance, it's a rectangle, and the sides are triangles. So let's calculate the surface area of a cylinder. So we begin by writing our formula. 2 times pi times the radius squared plus 2 times pi times the radius times the height. Now we're going to label the numbers in our figure. 8 is the height. 4 is the radius. Now let's substitute the numbers in. 2 times pi, the radius squared, so 4 squared is 16. 2 times 16 is 32, so 32 pi plus 2 times pi times the radius of 4 and the height of 8. 8 times 4 is 32, times 2 is 64, so 64 pi. 32 pi plus 64 pi is 96 pi. (96) times 3.14 is 301.44. And that's square meters. Let's calculate the surface area of a rectangular prism. The formula is 2 times the length times the width plus 2 times the length times the height plus 2 times the width times the height. So let's label our figure. 4 is the height, 8 is the length, and 3 is the width. So let's substitute our numbers. 2 times 8 times 3, which is 24 times 2, which is 48, plus 2 times 8 times 4. 8 times 4 is 32, times 2 is 64, plus 2 times 3 times 4. So 6 times 4 is 24. (48) plus 64 plus 24 is equal to 136. So the surface area is 136 square inches. The surface area of a cone. The formula is pi radius squared plus pi times the radius times the slant height. So let's label the numbers in the figure. 10 is the radius. 18 is L, which is the slant height. Now let's substitute the numbers in. We have pi r squared. So 10 squared is 100. So let's rewrite that as 100 pi plus pi. We have a radius of 10 and a slant height of 18. 10 times 18 is 180. So 180 pi. 100 pi plus 180 pi is 280 pi, which equals 879.2. Square feet. The surface area of a pyramid is 1/2 the lateral height, the slant height times the perimeter plus the area of the base. So the slant height is 11. And let's look at the base here. We have a square. So 9 on each side. So 9 times 4 makes the perimeter 36 and makes the area 9 squared, which is 81. So 1/2 times 11 times 36 plus 81. So we're going to put 0.5 in there for 1/2. 0.5 times 11 times 36 plus 81, which is 279 square yards. The surface area of a triangular prism is the height times the perimeter of the base plus 2 times the area of the base. So our height is 15, which is h. So let's look at our base. It's the triangle, 5, 12, and the hypotenuse they have here labeled as 13. So the perimeter is 12 plus 13 plus 5, which is 30. The area of the base is 1/2 base times height, so 1/2 of 12 is 6 times 5 is 30. So the height of 15 times the perimeter of 30, which is 450, plus 2 times the area of the base of 30 is 60. So that equals 510 square yards. Our last figure is a composite. It's made up of a cylinder and a cone. So we need to calculate the surface area of both objects and add them together. But let's look carefully here. We don't need the surface area of the entire cone because the cone and the cylinder meet. The bottom of the cone and the top of the cylinder are inside, so we need to get rid of those. So let's go over to the formula for the cylinder, and we know we don't need this top part here because it's inside, so we don't need the area of one of the circles. And the area of a circle is pi r squared, and this says 2 times pi r squared, so we only need 1 pi r squared, so let's get rid of that. And let's go down to the cone, and we don't need the base or this circle here, pi r squared, so let's get rid of that. And let's rewrite the formula then. We have pi times radius squared plus 2 pi radius times height plus pi times radius times the slant height. So let's go back to our figure here and label the numbers. 2 here represents the height of the cylinder. 4 is the diameter, but we need the radius, so let's cut that in half and say the radius is 2. And 6 is the slant height. So pi times the radius squared, so the radius is 2, so 4. So we have 4 pi plus 2 pi times 2 for the radius and 2 for the height. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So 8 pi plus pi times the radius of 2 times the slant height of 6, which is 12 pi. So now I have 4 plus 8 plus 12, which is 24, and so we have 24 pi, which equals 75.36. 75.36 centimeters squared.